Good day, everybody. Welcome to today's video. In today's video, my 2014 Wrangler JKU, I'm going to show you how to rebuild your Teraflex HD steering system. It's very simple. It uses 4 ball joints. They're all the same part number. And you got to go through the usual steps like you normally would to work on your steering. The first thing is to get the front axle up on jack stands. That's number 1. Because you're going to have to remove the tires. Removing the tires is going to give you access to the steering knuckle, make it a little bit easier to pop the tie rods off. So I'm just using my impact and then pulling the tires off. And if they're like mine, they haven't been off in a long time, they're all rusted and seized, put some spray on it, use an impact gun. I just spin the nut off. And what I like to do is put the nut back on. You don't have to, but I like to put it on flush. And then I do the same with the other sides. Remove them both. You can see in that high-speed video that heavily rusted. Then I take a hammer and I beat it till it pops out. And the reason why I have the nut on is because then it doesn't drop to the ground. Once you get your steering assembly off, I just remove the rubber boot. And then I'm popping the snap ring off because you need to do that to press the ball joint out. Now, if you're lucky, you could just use a ball joint press like this. But in my case, they're heavily seized, so I had to use an air hammer. I air hammered them for a bit to break up the rust because with the ball joint press, they weren't going at all. Then I used a hammer to shock load it, and that seemed to start breaking it free. Then once it started breaking it free, I grabbed the ball joint press again and started giving her the beans. And then once she popped free, I was able to go ahead and press all the joints out. I'm going to tell you right now, all 4 came out with a struggle. So if you get yourself into the situation, it can be done. It just takes a little bit of time and violence. So that is the part number for the ball joint kit for the steering that I used. It should be all the same unless they change it. Now what I like to do is lubricate all the ball joint surfaces with light film of oil. I do not buff it. Also, you got to remove the rubber boot before you press it in so you don't damage it. That's a big one. You damage that boot, it's game over. Now I'm ready to get the ball joints pressed in. And this part is very important. You see the groove on the ball joint? There's that little steel pin that comes with the kit. That has to go into the ball joint, as such as you see right there. And then on your steering, it corresponds with the groove that's going to fit in. You have to line those up and put them together in order for this to work. I had marked my steering before I pressed them out, so I knew the orientation of the way it went. So now that that is settled, we're going to get ready to press them in place, and then this job will be done. The hardest part for me was just getting them out. And I'm going to use a ball joint press to press them in. So that's going to be the upper cup right there to push down. You can see the ball joint set in there with the pin. And then I'm going to use the lower receiver there to catch the bottom end as it sticks out. And you can just see going back right here, holding the pin with my finger, lining it up, pushing it in. And that's where it's going to sit. Remember to take the rubber boot off. Just setting up the ball joint press, and then very carefully snugging her down nice and slow. When the ball joint press stops, you'll know you're in place. Don't keep hammering on it. So I'm just going to back her off, double check it is indeed in place. Everything is looking good. Do the other side now. And you got to make sure before you put your snap ring in is to make sure those pins haven't fallen out, because it is possible that they could. So once I verify that those pins are in place, grab my snap ring, put my snap ring over the new ball joint, and then stabbing it just to snap it in place. Very carefully put the boot back on, and then the rubber spring is in the kit, and then slide that over carefully to get the rubber boot seated, and then presto, reinstall your steering, and you're done. Like I said before, the biggest struggle for me was pressing out the ball joints, but it was way cheaper to replace the ball joints and replace the whole steering. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, post them below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.